All right, so if you're watching this video, you are ready to move from whole numbers to decimal numbers when it comes to adding decimals. And we know that when it comes to decimal numbers, it is the same but different. And if you're watching this video, I already know you know how to add whole numbers. And so we're just going to make a little tiny change from whole numbers to decimal numbers, piece of cake. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of myself here. Maybe, there we go. All right, so when it came to adding whole numbers, there was a couple things we talked about. Rewriting that number sentence from left to right. Just like we read a sentence from left to right, we want to rewrite and recopy that number sentence from left to right. And we want to make sure that we line them up. We know adding is part of COAS. We need to line up those place values. We are also then going to solve the problem by starting at the right, all the way at the right. And we need to remember that two cars cannot park in the same spot. Well, when it comes to adding decimals, almost everything is exactly the same. The only difference is in the setup, that when we line them up, we need to make sure that we annex zeros, that we fill in those empty places with zeros. And we also want to remember that we know that estimating a quick trip to the spa is a quick way to see about what the answer should be and to check if our answer that we end up getting is a reasonable answer. So I'm going to show that part as well. I always recommend estimating first to kind of see about what your answer should be. So I know that 5 3/10 is going to be about 5. And I know that 1 24/100 is going to be about 1 when we're rounding to the nearest whole number. And so 5 plus 1 is 6. So when I get my final answer to adding 5 3/10 plus 1 24/100, my final answer should be about 6. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to set up my original problem from left to right, starting with 5 3/10. And I want to make sure that the next thing I do is my plus sign. When I put 1 24/100 down, I want to make sure I'm lining up my place values, just like we do when we're comparing. I know the 1 should go underneath the 5 because it's in the ones place. I know the 2 should go underneath the 3 because it's in the tenths place, and the 4 is in the hundredths place. My final step before I can start to solve is a simple one. If I have an empty place value, just like when we are comparing, we want to annex those zeros in. Now, guys, it's very, very simple. I'm going to go ahead and change my color here to red. I'm simply going to start at the right and start to add. 0 plus 4 is 4. So I know that I have 4 hundredths. 3 plus 2 is 5. So I have 5 tenths. Wherever I see my decimal point, I must include my decimal point here to keep those place values as the Thuniverse there. And 5 plus 1 is 6. And so just that simple, guys, I get a final answer of 6 54/100. And I know that my answer makes sense because I know that it should have been about 6. 6 54/100 is absolutely close to 6. So let's take a look at this one. I'm going to go ahead and estimate first by rounding to the nearest whole number. I am going to get a raise, so 23 94/100 is about 24. And 4 5/10, well, that's about 5. And 24 plus 5, if you don't know what that is, mentally, you are more than welcome to set up a problem like this. I know that my answer should be about 29. So I'm going to go ahead and set it up for real. I'm going to start with what I see first, 23 94/100. The next thing that I see is a plus sign. I know that when I line up 4 5/10, I want to line them up place value by place value. The decimal point will help with that. I'm going to line up my decimal point first. I know this 4 is just to the left of the decimal point in the ones place. So I'm going to put the 4 right here. And that 5 is in that very first place value in the Thuniverse in the tenths place, just like the 9. So I'm going to line up that 5 under the 9. And here's my equal sign. Before I start to solve it, if I see an empty place value, I'm going to go ahead and just annex a 0 here. And now, guys, it just becomes just this simple, starting at the right. 4 plus 0 is 4. 9 plus 5 is 14. I can't park two cars in one spot, so I'm going to put the 4 down, carry the 1 directly next door to the ones place. I'm going to go ahead and put in my decimal point here. That will keep my Thuniverse place values as they are. Now I'm going to add my entire ones column. 1 plus 3 is 4, plus 4 more is 8. and 2 plus 0 is 2. And I get a final answer of 28 and 44 hundredths. And you can see that answer totally makes sense to my estimate. 28 and some piece of another is absolutely close to 29. This will help you guys, if you're estimating, will help you catch if you forget your decimal point, which is a huge common Bob mistake. Look what happens. Let's say, whoa, Mrs. Phillips, let's say that I forget my decimal point and I think my answer is 2,844. When I look and say, oh my gosh, my answer should be about 29. Ugh, duh, Mrs. Phillips. I totally forgot my decimal point. And so that would be when I would go in and I would realize that I need that decimal point to keep all my place values where they are. Let's go ahead and do one more. Estimating to start, that is about 1, and this is not going to get a raise. It's about 0. Look how easy of a trip to the spa this is. 1 plus 0 is 1. I know my final answer should be about 1. I'm going to go ahead and start with 0 and 654 thousandths. I'm going to add 0 and 3/10. I need to make sure that my place values are lined up. Since this 3 is in the tenths place, I want to line that up with my tenths place, which is right here. And I have a 0 in the ones place. And here's my equal sign. Before I can solve, just make sure you annex your zeros into your empty places. Now, guys, it is just this simple. Looking at my thousandths place, 4 plus 0 is 4. Looking at my hundredths, 5 plus 0 more hundredths is still 5 hundredths. When it comes to tenths, I have 6 tenths plus 3 more tenths is 9 tenths total. I'm going to keep my decimal point right where it is to make sure my place values stay the same, and 0 plus 0 is 0. And so I get a final sum here of 0 and 954 thousandths. 0 and a part of another one is absolutely close to 1. So guys, what you're going to do next is you are going to show me what you can do. You are going to get in your packet, look at the next section, and you're going to do 3 things. First thing you're going to do is estimate. You're going to just round each one to the nearest whole number. So 8 and 2/10 is about 8. 1 and 62 hundredths, that does get a raise, so that goes to a 2. And 8 plus 2 is 10. So we know that when we actually go to solve them, this problem, my answer should be about 10. So now I'm going to set up the actual problem. 8 and 2/10 plus 1 and 62 hundredths, making sure I line them up. Don't forget to annex in that 0. And now I'm going to go ahead and add 0 plus 2 is 2. 2 plus 6 is 8. Don't forget that decimal point. If you want to start with the decimal point before you even start adding, that's fine too. And 8 plus 1 is 9. And so this last column simply says, is your answer reasonable? So I got an answer of 9 and 82 hundredths. And I know that my answer should be about 10. So this just makes me look at my estimate and look at my actual and make sure my answer makes sense. I think yes, it does. And if I can't write yes, then I shouldn't be moving on. It means I made a mistake somewhere. So yes means I like where my answer is compared to my estimate. You are going to complete the rest of these in a 1, 2, 2 check-in. That means do 1 check-in, then do 2 more check-in, and then do the last 2 and check-in. You got this. It is the same but different. You're already an expert. You just don't know it yet. I just don't know either how to stop my video. So give me a second here.